Hello and welcome to another episode of Ask the Arts. Today I have a very special guest, Lisa Van Der Wielen. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate you taking the time to come and share just a little bit about what's been happening in your creative journey. Would you like to tell everyone a little bit about how you started and what's happening for you now?
Yeah, so I'm a teacher, a primary school teacher. I've been teaching about 23 years. And then about 6 years ago, I decided I would start publishing books. And I published my first book in 2017. And that sort of led me on a writing and publishing journey. And I now have 9 published picture books.
Amazing. And are these books that you could see there was a need for being a teacher, or were these something that came from personal experience?
Yeah, I think it was a bit of both. I think being a teacher, we read a lot of books to children every day. So I was inspired to start writing my own stories. I think all of my stories have a moral or a message, or they teach something. So I think that was my inspiration behind writing my own books, to be able to teach through stories.
And do you find that you use picture books in the classroom anyway, like just as that was something that you've always done?
Definitely. I think kids learn really well through picture books. So I use them all the time in my teaching.
Awesome. And now that you've had kind of both sides of the coin, you've seen, obviously the amazing impact that you can have on kids by being a teacher, but now the impact that you can have on kids by writing stories. Is there, room for both? Do you think that's definitely something that you are going to continue doing both of, or is there one that's calling to you more than the other?
Absolutely. Obviously, my passion is now as an author, as a writer, and I guess creativity. And I think I have seen education and the education system from a different perspective. And I see that there needs to be some change where creativity is encouraged for children, because I see going out to schools and visiting them as an author and then having my teacher hat on is very different. And I see that creativity is something that is missing within our education system now, because it seems to be so focused on results. And I feel that when I do activities with kids regarding my books, I see that some of them struggle with creativity because we lead such a structured education system. So I guess I have seen it from a different perspective now, education. I think that's probably influenced my teaching as well.
That's so interesting because I do not have a teaching background, but I definitely have seen what you've seen when I go and do my author visits, and I'm asking kids to be creative in a way where I'm not providing that, really structured framework. And I'm saying to them, what I really want is I want to know what you think. And then I just kind of get this blank kind of look at what do you mean? Aren't you going to tell me what I'm meant to think? Aren't you going to tell me what I'm going to say? Aren't you going to tell me how I have to do this? So I just am so grateful that you can share that perspective with everybody, because you have got that teaching background and now going into it from the author perspective and seeing that there is an issue there. There's an issue with kids initiating creativity and kids having room in the curriculum to be creative. Is there a solution? In your opinion, is there a way forward?
I think that it stems from a fear of failure. I think that there's so much emphasis in the education system on students always being right or having to get the answer correct, when creativity, as we know, is very different to that. And I actually teach STEM, so I'm really passionate about putting creativity into teaching that STEM, which is all about a very similar process where we investigate and then we trial different things and trying to recognise that failure equals learning. And I think that's the same with the teaching writing process as well. It's learning along the way. So I guess it's a whole different way of learning. And I think there is going to be a shift within the education system for that, because we need to adapt to the changes of the world, especially with technology and everything too, because students or children are learning differently these days.
Absolutely, totally agree. And it's the change is going to come, I think, from the ground up. I don't see it being something that's going to be a drip down process. It's definitely going to be people like you who are raising concerns and having a voice and using your lived experience to show that there is this gap in the education system, and we need kids to feel like that they can try and fail, and school really be a safe place to fall, a safe place to fail, where they don't feel like they're going to be judged or marked. So I think that's just such a really important part of not only what it's like to be a teacher, but also as a creative person, that we are showing our journeys to kids, and we don't get it right all the time. We are making mistakes and we learn from those mistakes. And sometimes those mistakes take us to a place which is even better than what we could have imagined if we'd done it right in the first place. So what's your favorite way to be creative now? What's your the part of being creative that really fills you up?
Well, obviously I love writing, and that's the way that I express my creativity, but I also like painting and drawing, and I would like to illustrate my own books one day. So I guess I'm sort of doing a little bit more of that now, and I find myself either painting or drawing, and I'm learning Procreate myself as well to express my creativity in different ways.
Oh, you're so brave.
Lots to
Amazing.
learn.
Yeah, oh, so much. And, it makes you realize that illustrators are the real rock stars when it comes to picture books, like how important those illustrations are to
Absolutely.
marry with the words. Oh my goodness. I'm so in awe of anyone who can do that. I think it's amazing. So, talking about kids, did you want to be a teacher when you grew up? Did you want to be an author? Did you want to be an artist? What did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, I actually wanted to be a doctor growing up, but I guess that was wanting to help people.
Yeah.
And I did start studying, but I couldn't deal with the dead bodies and cadavers. So I actually shifted then to teaching. But I think in some ways it's quite similar, because it's a way of helping people. And I actually did always want to be a teacher when I was younger. So I sort of, fell into that, and I've really enjoyed it and loved it, because I feel like there's a lot of creativity in being a teacher, whether it's setting up your classroom or taking on a topic that you can actually teach and express in your own way. So it is actually a very creative occupation.
Absolutely. What's the best part about what you do?
Well, I think sharing my stories with students and trying to inspire their imagination. So I think that's definitely the most rewarding. And if I can impact even one student out of all of the students that I teach with one of my stories, I feel like I've achieved something with that message or moral.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And what do you feel now, because you do have that experience from both sides? What's the hardest part about what you're doing now?
I think the hardest part is actually marketing yourself and your work. And I think when I became an author, I thought it would be as simple as just writing these stories and then getting them out to the world. But now, as most of my stories are now self-published, it's a whole different world out there for marketing. And now with social media and new forms of social media, you're constantly learning those different platforms and learning how to put yourself out there. And I guess it's a really difficult thing to learn, because I guess I write because that's a way of expressing my creativity. But a lot of creators don't like actually putting themselves out there, but you realise as an author, that's really what you're doing also.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you sign up to this because you want to stay at home and drink coffee and write stories in your pajamas, and then all of a sudden you've got to go, oh, nobody's going to actually read my stories if I keep doing this. It's really tricky. And exactly what you said, it's not something that you kind of prepared for when you start, because you're just like, I just want to be creative. I want to write these stories. But if they are to reach the kids who needs them, then you really do need to go out and put yourself out there a little bit. What advice would you give to not only the adults watching, but any kids watching on, what you think they need to have so that they can be creative and express themselves creatively?
I guess to accept that failure equals learning, and there is no correct or perfect way to be creative. Just create, whether it's painting or drawing or music, or writing. It's just doing something that you enjoy doing. So if you're passionate about it, then do it. And there is no perfect way to do any of those things. It's just expressing and learning along the way, because none of us are experts at this, are we? We're all just doing what we love, and that's the really important part, I think.
Yep. Part of making up stories for a living means that you're also just making it up as you go along half the time. You're just trying to figure it out as you go along. And
That's right.
if somebody wants to get in touch with you or buy copies of your books, where's the best place that I can direct them or put links in the comments for them to be able to get in contact with you?
Probably just directly on my website, so which is www.lisavanderwielen.com, and that's got all of the links to my books, blogs, and other things that to do with my writing.
Awesome. And what's the best way that we can support you at the moment? Do you need us to follow you on social media? Do you want us to see if we can get author visits for you? How can we best support you as a creative?
Yes, obviously social media follows all helps. I'm actually currently running a Kickstarter at the moment for one of my picture books. So trying to get funding for that and to get that book out to the world. That's been another learning experience as well. That's another tricky task for authors. But so any support like that, reviews of books, any support for our creative work is greatly appreciated, because that's how our work gets out there.
Absolutely. So I will put a link to your website and also to your Kickstarter in the comments. So anyone who's watching, if you can please help support our creative, support Lisa to keep doing the amazing work that she's doing with the incredible experience that she has. She is a teacher who can see that gap in our kids' education, and she's doing everything that she can to be able to help boost creativity and imagination and inspire our kids. And if it's just as little as going and following her and liking and commenting on her stuff, or buying one of her books, that's something that I think we can all do. So thank you so much, Lisa, for coming on and sharing a little bit of your creative journey with us today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Michelle. It's been a great chat.